shoot, I ended up hitting my glasses. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's doing very well. This is Travis. This is another morning episode of Trade with Travis. I'm going to be very quick because I actually have to leave in the next few minutes. But I want to make sure that I end up at least talking about some trading opportunities before I end up getting out of here. So I'm going to go through them very quickly, talk about the ones that I end up seeing, place in my pending orders, because typically around this time, it's the only time that I can be able to do that. And then after that, I'll go ahead and call it a day. For the people that will be watching live, thank you for being able to watch out. If you have any questions, I'll try to go through them as quickly as possible. But I only plan on doing this morning for about 20 minutes. Then after that, legitimately, I have to get out of here and be able to go from there. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from the education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. You understand that forex trading and trading in general involves risk of being able to make money, also involves risk of being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you can end up making money today. With that being said, as we go through, every time that we end up going through trading and doing everything else like that for our sessions, I would kind of implore you to be able to take a look at this site right here. If you're interested in being able to learn a little bit more about what we end up doing on an everyday basis and being able to go from there, all you have to do is just click on that link and then follow the instructions. It'll lead you directly to what we end up doing from a standpoint and going from there. Amazon, what's going on, man? I hope everything's going well with you. Like I end up telling everybody, we're gonna go through some quick trades real quick, see what's going on, and then after that, I gotta get out of here a little bit earlier today, so we'll go ahead and go through it. I'm gonna go through the indexes first, and after that, if you have a pair that you want to talk about, we can definitely go through that one very quickly. But because I have this stuff up already, I'm gonna go through these real quick. All right, so Dow Jones, we end up taking a look at this trade. We end up having this on my trade and view page as a idea. This trade is actually closed. End up completing that one on Monday. End up bringing in about 15 when it came down to that move. Super excited for everyone to end up finishing up that move. But it was based off this pending buy trade. We end up completing that move a little bit earlier on Monday. So what is happening now? We take a look at this overall position. That's that big push up that we end up saying, that big run up to 34,300. And then after that, typically when you end up seeing a move like that, especially when it's being blocked by a lot of high volume consolidation based off of the top of this movement, based off of what we end up looking at from this consolidation, we're probably going to end up seeing some consolidation, and we probably might end up seeing a rejection. So it's not surprising that we're seeing that the market is starting to pop down. But in order for it to be able to pop down, just like anything else, it probably is going to have to go through some type of consolidation first before actually being able to fall. And so as I'm taking a look at it, let's just go through and just take a look at what ended up happening with the move. Very simple. Market went into consolidation. After it ended up making that, it was a very slight consolidation. And it wasn't necessarily in a high volume node or anything. It was just a slight consolidation from that peak. That goes your highs. There goes your resistances, there goes your supports. The market bounced off of this support, broke down, and fell back down into this zone, right where this natural support was based off of this previous movement. Now it ended up pushing back up. Once again, kind of defining this overall area and kind of putting it into a position to where now when you end up taking a look at it, now this is not necessarily a free space and a consolidation on a free space and everything else. This is really more a natural built larger consolidation that's actually starting to be built right now. So what does that mean for today's trading? If we're taking a look at today's trading, depending on what ends up happening, I don't think that there's going to end up being a great move to be able to get into, because the market is still trying to figure out where is it actually going. And so if you're interested in being able to take a trade off of this move, there's really no move aside from scalping that I would personally be interested in being able to do from that position because of that reason. Now my automation system ended up placing me in a trade, and it's actually down this morning as I take a look at it. And because of what I'm looking at, I'm actually probably just going to go ahead and just cancel and just eat this loss, even though losing 2,400 is not necessarily a very good pill to swallow. But I think that it'll probably end up being.
Do you see anywhere where it's? Do you see anywhere where it's spaghetti twisters?
No, I didn't see a spaghetti twister. But you can go upstairs and finish watching the video.
It's a tomato tornado.
That's a tomato tornado. What's going on, Samuel? Hope everything's going well with you. My son is very much into cloudy with something meatballs. He thinks that he's flintlock wood at this particular point now. um, but once again, we're looking at a large volume of consolidation because we are seeing that. I think this is going to end up being probably the major block when it comes down to that. Because we do have that, because we do know that, then now we can go ahead and start placing in our pending orders and being able to be prepared for it if it breaks up to the upside or breaks to the downside. This trades that I'm in right now, I don't like them. I hope that it would go to break even and everything else, but personally, there's not a great move inside of this area that you could truly hang your hat on and say that it's going to end up being a good one. I could kind of make a case of saying that this is the resistance of that consolidation and that is your natural supports when it comes down to that movement. Obviously, because we can be able to see that this is the high volume node that is basically being placed in that area. But even with that being said, there's still not a great trade to be able to take in any shape or fashion when it comes down to it. You could possibly be able to get a few points, a few pips up to the upside, and a few pips up to the downside. But if it pushes up, it's probably going to end up being rejected right around 34,200, and then after that, fall down again. I'll rather go after bigger moves when it comes down to that. So let's go ahead and set up the pending order so I can do this and kind of get this out the way. My pending order will end up being below 36,860, kind of the same position where we end up getting out on that first trade of last week. Stop loss will end up being above 3,400. So I'm going to say 3,400 for the stop loss. Um, so here's your entry. Here's your entry. There goes your stop loss. Now the stop loss will have to be above the swing high, and I know that means that you're typically giving up a little bit more, especially for people that don't necessarily like that. If you don't like doing that, I would say place your stop loss below, above the point of control at 33,960. That'll be about 100 point move. And because we're only in the second day, truly, of this market kind of building up in this consolidation, you're probably not going to. It probably may not. Well, actually, probably may be a good idea to keep it at the middle because typical consolidations they end up giving big moves that we've been seeing. It's been about 3 to 4 days. Uh, I think the last one where we end up making that 15K and everything else like that, they'll base off of a 7 day consolidation. So we're going to have to pay attention to that a little bit more. Take profit on this one. If we end up doing that, we end up being at the top of this consolidation. I'm probably going to end up saying right around 33,630. We end up being in a great position to be able to get out. You want to be a little bit safe when it comes down to that position. I would say a second take profit position, what a first take profit position on this one will probably be 33,750. Second take profit will end up being 33,630, and then after that, or 33,640, and then after that, you can be able to go from there. So I'm going to type this in now. I'm going to place this in as a pending order. For people that are watching it now, you can be able to place that in. You can be able to place that in whenever you want. Uh, I'll take that for the two. Now, once again, if y'all have any orders that y'all are interested in being able to take a look at for the very limited time that I have today, we can be able to talk about that. What's up, son? What's up, baby?
You're gonna be a black cat.
Okay. So take profit 133,750. Take profit 233,640. Stop loss would be 33. Let's say 33,960. With a pending entry. Let's make this green. Any questions about this while I'm going through it? Any questions on this trade? Now, this sale that I'm in, if this market breaks above this consolidation, then I'm automatically going to exit because that means that it could be able to run up all the way up to 3,400, 3,400, 200 because 34 wasn't necessarily a great spot for the market to be able to push anyway. So if it does reject, it's shown signs that it will push up from that high. That's the reason why we got into that second trade and had that big movement. So it wouldn't surprise me if the market kind of runs up in that area if it does. Um, would that make a case for being able to buy it? It kind of would, but at the same time, I don't like large scale consolidation. And because I see large scale consolidation, I don't want to be in the trade in the first place until it breaks out. So that kind of makes a point for me saying that the next breakout trade to the upside will be at 34,200. And then after that, running it up to, on an hourly perspective, we're saying 34,200. I said the next scout will go back to 34,300. 34,300 when it comes down to that move to the upside. Okay, so I'm gonna place in these pending orders real quick. Just give me a second, um, and then after that we'll talk about Nas and see what's going on with Nas. Okay, but there goes the orders right there. I'm actually gonna exit out of my. Should I give it a little bit more time? Should I? I'm gonna give it a little bit more time. Good. All right. Okay. Uh, that positions off calculator. See a short pending order entry will end up being at 33. Gonna be a little bit lower than that. 33,850. Stop loss 33,960. Take profit 33,360 or 33,640. This trade, because it will be going against the overall position of highest probability, at least at that particular point, I'm only going to go with 5% of my account when it comes down to that trade. Um, we'll see how it kind of plays out when it comes down to that movement. See, there goes your high. Your high was right there, but there's really no way to be able to play off of that. I'm going to say right there. Let me give myself a shot. That second order, that's at 33,750. It kind of evens up, so I'm going to go with 2% on that trade. You don't have to take the second trade if you don't want to, but if you want to, then there you go. But if it does fall, there goes those positions. I'm going to go ahead and place. I place that in, so that order is in currently right now. I got to place it in on my $100 challenge account. Just give me 1 second, and then after that, we can go ahead and move forward to the next one. $33,850. Stop loss $33,960. While I'm talking about this, if there is in certain positions when you know that you're not going to be in front of the computer and you're doing all your trades within the computer terminal, kind of like what I'm doing instead of doing it on your phone, this would be a good time to be able to actually use your trailing stop icon or operation on that, because it'll make it easier for you to be able to say or feel comfortable about if it goes into profit, it'll automatically be able to move the trail stop for you because you already done said what it was. For me, because it's moving to the downside, I would probably have the trail stop be about 60 to 80 points. If you feel like it's going to end up breaking quickly, I would say take it to 35 points and kind of roll from there. Either way, both of them will end up kind of doing the same thing overall. So you'll have somewhat of a good chance to be able to make that move, or somewhat of a good chance to be able to let that ride out. How you end up playing it out from there. So I don't think that it's going to end up pushing down and hitting that position, but I am going to go ahead and place in my trail stop. Like, what's going on? I hope everything's going well with you. If there's a pair that you would like to be able to talk about before I hurry up and get out of here, we can go ahead and talk about it. Place it in the chart, and we'll go from there. I'm placing in. I'm gonna have my trailing stop on both of these be 80 points because this is an index pair. You got to go 8,000. It should give me a chance to be able to allow this thing to be able to get in the profit and to be able to kind of roll from there. 80 points and 80 points. Okay, so those orders are placed in. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening with Nas real quick. Nas is showing the same thing. Big push, consolidation. We had to get out of this trade a little bit earlier because of this consolidation. We end up having that same movement to the downside. If you looked at how it ended up matching up, it legitimately ended up basically covering up that same spot that we end up having from that pre-run area to the left and the right hand side. From there, we have another built-up consolidation. With this being your supports, we had a very nice double bottom, and it looks like it's breaking out towards the top side. If it is breaking out towards the top side, then once again, the order that I end up having, I would call that the resistance. If it is going in that position, then to me, I think that the market will keep on rolling up to the upside. Now, does that mean that this is a very good position to get in for its trading? Once again, no. And it's not giving a larger consolidation build, kind of like what we're seeing with kind of like what we're seeing with US 30. But what it is doing is that it's telling me that I probably wouldn't be interested in being able to make any more trades until the market ends up breaking out to the upside of 13,530 and falling down to the downside of 13,380. But even with that being said, taking a look at the downside move is nothing more than a scalp. And the upside move is still going back to that same position that we were talking about for being able to go up to 860 for that move. If we're talking about two orders to be able to place in for the buy and the sell, here goes your there'll be your entry, take profit. Take profit. If we're just scalping it, we end up being right at the lows of where that point actually was. If this market fail, it ended up being that support and taking it down to 350. Everybody, give me 1 second, please. Okay, so we have that position all the way down to right here. I'm gonna place in these orders, but I don't like even the spacing that we have. I would like the buy trade a little bit better if I'm just taking a look at it just from an overall movement standpoint. But I don't know. I think this one is probably gonna end up it probably will make a larger scale consolidation when it comes down to that movement. We go over to the left hand side. You can see that we're in this. We can see that we're still kind of in this area where this high volume or this large consolidation area was previously from April all the way up to May 6th. So it doesn't necessarily scream out a lot of opportunities of free movement to be able to run. With that being said, I'm not gonna make any orders off this one yet. I'm gonna let this one kind of play out and kind of see how it's gonna end up moving. Yeah, I'm gonna hold off on that one. I'm gonna hold off on that one real quick. All right, so let's take a look at DAX. DAX has a better consolidation block, but the thing that I do not like is that if it falls down, it's falling down into another consolidation block. DAX has not necessarily had a lot of great movement overall since what ended up happening in early January. So really and truthfully, there's only a couple trades that you can be able to take. If it does pop up, we can go back to what we ended up talking about before with that pending order, where I felt like it could go all the way up to 840. And it did. It did that for the most part. We ended up completing that trade last week. I mean, yeah, completing that trade last week. And it fell back inside of consolidation. So um, that spells to me that the downside trade will probably end up being the better trade. So let's talk about that one. It has a couple locations of where you can be able to get out at based off of what I'm looking at, and I love being able to see this formation when talking about moves. You have that high volume node, you have that high volume node, you have that high volume node, you have all this space in between. So you want to sit up there and take advantage of this space. You want to take advantage of that space when it comes down to your orders. Typing a wire, yes, if that makes sense. So the orders that we want to be able to take advantage of will end up being the spaces in between the high volume nodes because they are called unfair market prices. You're interested in being able to learn a little bit more, this is what we talk about in my live stream classes and everything from my automation systems and all other stuff when it comes down to those movements. Um, did I get kicked out of? Give me 1 second. Okay.
Daddy, the
Baby,
room is so loud.
baby, I'm in a meeting. Let's see. Okay, so order will end up being below the lows 13,610. 13,610 will be the order. I'm going to end up getting out of this order at 13,535. I will talk about gold, but I will. You probably won't necessarily hear the greatest news about it with me. Um, Gold is in a very large consolidation, and to be honest, because of how slow it moves and because of fear, because it is a fear market, it's not necessarily a great position to be able to get into. But I will go through it real quick. Hey man, they are part of the show. They do that all the time. There's sometimes because I have to leave. Typically, I have them on the screen at least once, but because I have to leave real quick, there's nothing I can be able to do about it. Just gonna let them rock. Um, okay, so orders to the downside. Even though that this consolidation would truly end at 13,567, if we go based off of this large, we go based off of this large movement, I would go with a smaller trade inside of here and place your stop loss just below the overall high right there. That's a pending order. I'm getting ready to go ahead and place that pending order in, or basically talk to everybody about it. Then after that, place it in on my system. Um, but this is the order that I would actually be a little bit more excited about from 13,420 all the way down to 13,224. Um, Obviously it'll be back in the middle of the consolidation that we ended up having before. So we probably you have to be a little bit more cognizant about 13,330. But you still have both of those moves. So let's go ahead and place that in as a pending order as well. I'm probably going to end up exiting off of the Nas trade because it looks like it's probably going to end up popping up to the upside. That's my automation system. My automation system actually ended up taking a sell trade, but it seems like the market is kind of pushing up to the upside off of that one. So I might have to exit off of that one in a second. Come here, come here, come here. Just say hey.
I gotta pray.
No, no, no. You didn't came in here 5 times. Come here. Say hey. Say hey. Say good morning. Your hair is not the greatest, but say good morning. Okay. Bye bye. No, baby. Okay. So DAX. Positions calculator. Okay, this would be a pending short. Entry will end up being at 13,530. With a stop loss of, well, actually, no. The take profit is 13,530. 13,530. 13,530. Entry will end up being at 13. I don't want to get cut off by those wicks. I'm going to say 13,600. Sorry for the screaming, everybody. Stop loss 13,677. The risk reward factor is not the greatest on this one. I will say that. But I am going to end up taking the trade. And then after that, if I need to adjust the stop loss, anything else like that, I can. But I am going to end up going. I am going to end up placing that in, and if I need to adjust it, we'll talk about it in tomorrow's session. Okay, so that's the first one. The second move, I'm going to keep the same entry, but I'm going to say if it does fall down and give us a little bit more space, that second take profit will end up being at 13,224. Did I get 13,224? Okay, that's where I got it from. So I'm going to say 13,230. 13,230. That's a better risk versus reward. Okay, placed in that order. Do you trade SPY? Can you please take a look at the chart real quick? Let's see. I trade a lot of indexes. I don't think I trade SPY, but we'll take a look at it. But I pretty much trade anything, so it doesn't necessarily. That last separator of trades right here, when the market ends up falling into the zone, that'd be 13,425. The stop loss above that, I'm going to go above the middle point of control that end up happening on this left-hand side. That'll end up being 13,470. Am I giving myself enough room if I do that? I'm going to go above this one. 13,492. 13,492. Okay, risk reward factor is good. It's a 1 to 2.9, and place it in that order as well. So DAX orders are in. I'm gonna go through these real quick. Gonna go through these once again real quick. Obviously, we're not trading inside of the consolidation. I don't like trading inside of consolidation. We want the market to be able to break to the outside, fall inside of these low volume nodes. So if it does fall inside these low volume nodes, the first order that we end up having will end up being at 13,610. The stop loss will end up being 13,679 with a take profit of 13,532. That one does not give a lot of great risk versus reward, but it probably will end up being the one that will end up being the cleanest when it comes down to moving and taking you out of profit early. The second trade that I will end up doing, if you want to be able to take this from a long-term swing trading position, will end up being the same order at 13,610, but taking it all the way down to 13,230. Better risk reward factor. You have to be in there a little bit longer, but if the market does push down and flush, that'll be the best trade that you end up getting. Now, once it ends up flowing through that area, I'm going to go based off of the 15 minutes so you can see it a little bit cleaner. If it falls down to this overall area and breaks below this high volume node right here, then the order will end up being at 13,420. The space that we're going after would end up being this gap that is right here, where we're getting out at 230. Now, keep in mind, 13,300 will probably end up being one of those areas where a lot of people will get out a little bit earlier. So I would say set your pending orders to be able, set your trail stop to be able to modify and reflect that based off of its movement. Okay, so there we go with German 40. We went through Nas, went through that. I am gonna go ahead and get out of the. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of the move for US 30 that did pop up to the upside. My automation system caught that, and once again, sometimes you have to take losses when it comes down to that movement. Same thing with Nas. I'm gonna go ahead and cut those losses real quick as well. I'd rather just go ahead and take the loss when it comes down to that movement. And we'll wait for it to be able to break out of this overall zone. Now, if you want to be able to look at being able to possibly buy on US 30 right now, if you're if you're a person that wants to be able to scalp it, what you could be able to do is you could buy from 13 from where it is right now all the way up to 13,205. That still give you about 120 something points to be able to go after. Me personally, I don't know if I'm going to end up taking it, but it looks very enticing because it's done been in consolidation and we're starting to see a larger breakout and it's falling inside of a zone to where you can at least get up to 13,138 for its overall movement. Um, so that is what I would end up saying about that. If you're interested in being able to scalp it now, I would hope that it will fall a little bit, but you could go from right there up to back up the highs of this overall movement. But for me, because I'm viewing this as a larger scale consolidation, I'm not going to take that order until it breaks out of that overall area. Um, so there we are with that. Let's take a look at gold real quick because we did talk. Because I did say that I was going to talk about gold. I'm going to take a look at SPY, and then after that, we'll go ahead and call it a day because I have to keep on moving. Let's see. There we go. Gold is part of the big three, so I always take a look at it first. Or one of those traits that I end up taking a look at first. So this is my true and unadulterated thing that I'm saying about it. Market end up pushing up to 2070 the second time because of what was based off of the war talks in Ukraine and what's happening with everything in Russia and Ukraine right now. When they end up having that big push up to the upside. Since then, the market has fell down to support at 1685, and you can see that 1685 has been a major support previously. Since then, the market has fell back into the middle of this consolidation. I said that for the people that end up getting to this orders when on that buy, if you were going to stay in, I would say stay into the midway point because the market has already done tapped on the bottom area at least 4 times. So that meant that take profit will end up being at 1870 for that push up. We can see that the market is starting to retrace. So if you are in orders, I would probably just go ahead and eat it and take the profit that you have. If you're not in a order, I would not look at being able to take a position until this market breaks below 1685. That's just me personally when it comes down to that move. I would not be interested in being able to take any trade in this consolidation, at least at that point. But if you are, you can make a case for this market possibly being able to fall all the way down to 13,655, which will end up being to take profit from that overall position. It did an 80-20 rule. It popped up. It went to the B. It has broken a counter trend line break. So some people can make a case for being able to sell it all the way down to 1655. Hopefully that helps out. Who said that? Yeah, hopefully I end up helping you out. Me personally, I'm not taking that trade. It's still consolidation rate. There we go. And last one before I get out of here, take a look at SPY and then call it a day. If you like what I end up doing, click on that boost button. If you like my kids yelling in the background, click on that boost button. Let's see. All right, so I know I did this one time before. There we go. Good. All right, so currently weekly to the downside. Feel from this perspective, there goes your fractal high. Let me use my magnet. Here goes your fractal high. Here goes your fractal low. Market has completed a D extension to the downside. That's the reason why you see the market bouncing up. Now it has completed and created a new field that you can be able to work off of. That new field is right here. From here to here, it's your new field. It's already done popped up to the 618. I can make a case for a lot of people looking at possibly being able to sell this position just because people love being able to trade at the 618. Now, I would caution, I probably wouldn't make a move until this market breaks a counter trend line. But there goes your outer. This would be your inner trend line right here. For more aggressive people, I would say look at the inner trend line and wait for the break out the inner trend line. Remember, when the market breaks the inner trend line, it will typically gravitate to the outer trend line for its movement to the downside. Typing a while, yes, if that makes sense. But from a weekly perspective, we could start to see that this market could fall down for at least 7 to 11 weeks if this market starts to push down from there. Now, zones that I would pay attention to from a weekly perspective would be um, the 370 area all the way to 337. I would look at being able to place an order right there. If this market breaks below 415, I go 415 to 391. That would be the two orders that I would look at being able to place in overall. Now, if you're a long-term swing trader, you like being able to do fibs, I would look at being able to get in at 415 and then try to ride it all the way down to 300 because that's where it's supposed to go from a weekly perspective. All right. From a daily perspective, we are in the sell zone. So once again, this is making a very good case of being able to say, hey, you might want to get in for a selling. We are about to reject off the high volume node. If I give myself we are about to reject off this high volume node, or at least we have rejected off this high volume node at this particular point, which was right here. We have that gap, a space that we could be able to take advantage of from right here to right here. And then after that, you got that major move that we just talked about based off of the weekly from down there to down there. So the question, I guess the question would be, what would I do today? Today, I probably wouldn't do much of anything unless there's a true counter trend line break. Well, let's see. Go to the 15 minute. Okay. All right. So here's your support. I'm going to call it the resistance because that has to be resistance because that's the top of the move. But do I see it dropping and by how much? I can make a case for it dropping. I see that the weekly and the daily is in the sell zone, so that's a very good thing to be able to know that the market is going to end up having an indicator that it will fall, and it's going to fall for at least 2 months if that happens, at least 2 to 3 months if that happens. The question is how much. You go based off of what I end up talking about from the weekly standpoint, it could fall all the way down to 331. If we're saying how much can you be able to get cleanly off of each trade, if you want to be safe, I'll short it at 420 and look at targeting 424 and look at targeting 420 for the first move, and then after that everything else will kind of lead inside of this gap that we ended up talking about before from here to here. So I wouldn't do anything until basically 424.83, and then after that, looking at being able to drop. I think that it could drop overall. We're talking about that first move, 471 points. Second move will end up being 560 points overall between both of those moves. About 1,100 points. Just the first and early move. Though, John, if that answers your question. Everyone, appreciate your time. Hopefully everything ended up making sense as we end up placing all that stuff in. I have to go to work. I'm actually late. But hopefully all that stuff ends up making sense. Look forward to being able to speak to each and every one of y'all in the future. Once again, everybody go ahead and click on that boost button. I will place these ideas out. Hopefully these trades end up kicking in that I end up placing in. I probably won't be in front of the computer to be able to do anything a little bit later on today, but we'll see how everything goes. Like always, plan your trade your plan. You're interested in being able to learn a little bit more. Obviously, you could be able to go to this site and be able to get a little bit more from there. All right, everybody, take it easy.